Hey everyone, for the second time. Sorry about that. Apparently, we were on mute the whole time, and so that's always lovely when that happens. But I'm Erica,
I'm Brian.
and we are the Bakers of the Bakers.tv, and we work online with men and women, whether you're an entrepreneur, we specialize in that, a couple, or just single. We work on you with you to create easy communication and deep connection in your friendships and relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and share this real quick. Brian, do you want to tell them why we're talking about these stories for the next
Well, yes, I sure would. We
few
are
days?
talking about our stories because we love stories, because stories connect us and help us to know who we are. So this is who we are. So in 15 days, we are super excited to go to San Antonio, Texas, to meet the lovely and talented Nicole Walters and Dave Ramsey. So it's kind of a big deal. And so leading up to that point, we're going to share a story every day of just awesome things that God is doing in our lives, that he has done over our lives, leading up to that awesome thing that he is also doing in our lives that we're super excited about. So Erica is going to share a story here about an awesome thing that God did.
Yeah. So one of the things, one of the stories as I was sitting down writing a list of ways that God's encountered our life directly was when I was in college, and a lot of things in my life led up to this, but basically I felt like I was good for nothing other than being able to please others, whether that be physically, emotionally, mentally. And I just felt really used, and I felt shameful, and some of it wasn't even my fault. But nonetheless, it happened. And you know how those words are in your head where you're like, well, that's all you're for, or that's all that you can contribute, or okay, now you've done that, so there's no way that you could possibly do anything, good for God, let alone anyone else. And I always felt like God was just sitting there condemning me. I definitely wasn't pursuing him, that's for sure, because I thought that he was just sitting there being like, Erica, seriously, I cannot believe you're doing this. Like, get over it. Like, you're just not good enough. And the thing is, none of us are really good enough, right? But I ended up going and kind of seeking a little bit, and I went to something called The Well at the Ashland University in Ashland, Ohio, which is where Brian and I met. And that night changed everything. We were singing a song, and I don't remember exactly what song it is until I end up singing it one day. And then I'll be like, oh, this is a song. But it was just basically about God's love and how it's never ending, and that he doesn't care, and that I'm just enough. And for whatever reason, even though I'd heard that my entire life, I felt like he was directly saying it to me that night. Not audible, because I'm, not crazy. Not that that can't happen, but you know what I mean? Like, it was just a very strong sense or intuition that I knew that he was directly saying that to me that night. And that it didn't matter what had happened to me. It didn't matter what I had done in my past. I was always really into relationships, and I really opened myself up to a lot of hurt and pain. And so because of that, I just felt like gross. I just felt like I wasn't worth anything, that I wasn't worthy. And I know everyone has their own struggles, but it's been a big one for me. And something that Brian and I have had to work through in our relationship because of the consequences of those things that I had done, but or that also happened to me. And so I felt like finally the chains were released, that God was saying, you know what, you are not the sum of all of that. That has nothing to do with how I value you, or how I look at you, or how I love you. And not only that, but I had people come alongside me that verified that, that let me know that that wasn't who I was, and that they had a similar experience. But until I showed up, until I sought him out, none of that could have happened. And so since that day, I have not struggled with the fact that, I'm okay or good enough, because ultimately it's just, he loves us no matter what we do. We could be the worst person in the entire world. We could have done all of the worst things, and he's still standing there waiting with his arms open. And by no means did I have any malicious intent with anything that I did. There's reasons for things that happen, and I fully believe that. And I appreciate your comment, Jen. And so God just showed up in such a big way. That was a huge pivotal point where I felt like I could then come into another church and not feel the guilt and the shame that I had felt for so long, because I didn't follow the rules, because I wasn't a good Christian girl like I should have been. And that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother topic of being a rule follower and what a relationship with God actually looks like, because it looks a lot different than I thought it did when I first started out. So God showed up in a big way and released those chains for me. And I know, Brian, you have a similar story too.
I do. I have pretty much the same exact story, so I won't make it super long. But yeah, we grew up very similarly as far as the way that we believed about God. And I was a very good Christian boy for most of my life, and
so met me.
It's all downhill from there.
Just kidding.
No, it was before I met her that my life really changed. But I grew up with this box, and if it is good, then it goes in the box, and if it is not, then we keep it outside of the box. And that doesn't matter if it's a person or a thing or an action or whatever, it stays outside of the box, because your goal in life is to be good and to be perceived as good, and then God will be happy with you, which is awesome, and it helps you to be a very good boy. And I was until I wasn't. So I grew up and I was going to church all the time, because that's what you do on Sundays, and reading the Bible, because people told me all the time that if you read the Bible, then everything is fixed. And that's all you have to do. You just go to church and read the Bible and keep everything outside of the box, and you'll be good.
Yeah. No gray areas allowed.
There are no gray areas. Don't ask questions. Don't have anything to base your faith on. Just do that because you feel guilty if you don't. Right. So then I went to college, and people started asking me, why do you read the Bible? Why do you go to church? And I was like, I don't know. And when you don't have an answer to that question, you stop doing it. So that was a fun point in life where I stopped going to church and stopped having any direction, because that was my direction, was trying to stay in my box and keep everything else out of the box. And suddenly I didn't have direction anymore. So didn't really know where God fit into anything anymore, but I knew, or at least I thought I knew, that God gets very angry when we don't stay inside of our box. And I was not in the box anymore. So
you were not doing good things.
Yes. I was very heartbroken at that point in my life, and I was breaking a lot of other people's hearts, and it was not fun. So eventually I got to a point where I was like, God is going to be mad at me, but I don't know what else to do. So we're going to go hang out and spend some time in worship. I've heard good things about this place called The Well. Similar story. And again, just spending time in worship and hearing the exact same things of, I love you no matter what. And there's nothing that you can do to ever separate yourself from me, or ever to make me not love you, or to make me love you any less.
Thank God it's not up to us, right?
Yeah. So this just began this completely radical transformation for me, where I had a relationship with a God that loved me, instead of a religion to follow, based on rules to follow so that you don't make God mad.
Yeah, that was awful when I had to live that way.
Yeah,
that was not fun. It's so much more fulfilling this way, and the way that it was meant to be. So yay. It's exciting.
God is good. It was sweet that he showed up and just said, like, this is who I am, and I love you. Yeah. And from there, we found a good foundation and a good place to move forward in our lives. So take care.
Definitely have not been perfect at all since then. but it doesn't matter because we just keep going forward and don't give up. And so even if it doesn't make sense right now, just keep pursuing, and God will keep pursuing you, and you'll just get closer and closer. So even though you might seem far away sometimes, and
Yes.
that will be another one of our stories.
Yes. And ask questions.
Yeah.
If you don't know why you believe, ask questions. It's okay. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's okay. I think questions are amazing. So these are not supposed to be long, but if you want to keep in touch with us, please go over and like our Facebook page. If you are not watching us directly on our Facebook page, it's at The Bakers TV. On Facebook, you can just type in at the Bakers TV. And then you can also find us on our website at thebakers.tv. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. There will be another story tomorrow, and we're really excited. And make sure you take our quiz on our website, just an FYI.
Yes.
It is amazing. It'll find out your core need. But until tomorrow, we love you. Have a great evening.
We will still love you tomorrow, too.
Well, yeah.
Until tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Then it's over. See ya.